Yeah, yesterday I met the maker, rolling up all this paper, told my man I'll see you later, roll up in my goofy pants.
Something a lot of you are asking and just wanting to know about is, what are the GM games like compared to the rest of the ladder? Is it really any different? Is there a monumental difference? Well, what's it like? I'm sure the first question is about the skill. How crazy is the skill in GM? And to be honest, it's really not much different from Masters. I'm going to reference my last video where I talked about the two types of GM games, where you have the normal GM game, which is the first type I like to call it, where it's just a whole bunch of players that happen to play in GM, and none of them are super recognizable names. You usually don't know who anyone is, and in those games, it really doesn't feel any different from Masters. I mean, you just feel like you're playing with more consistent players, and that's it. It really just still feels like Master, all the way up to like 4,300. But then there's the second type of GM game, like I said in my last video, where you're playing with and against pros and huge, high-ranking streamers. Those are the games where the skill feels a lot different. You're playing against the players that really don't miss any shots, and definitely not any of the important shots, and you can tell. The moment you're playing against them, you can tell something is different. But that's what the skill is like in GM. It doesn't really change much from Master until you start getting with all the pros and super crazy famous streamers. And it's funny because you don't even have to be a high-ranking player to play against the high-ranking players. Anywhere from 4,000 to 4,100, and even when I was 3,900, I was still winding up in 4,500 games. Solo queue, 4,500 games. Back before I was even GM, I was getting pulled up into that. It really seems to be like 1 in every 3 of my games seems to be one of those super high-ranking matches. So now talking about the heroes I'm seeing in game, it's the exact same as Master. And I feel like for most questions I could say it's the exact same as Master, but in GM it's a little bit different because while people are playing mostly the same heroes, the difference is that there are a lot more one-tricks. There are a lot of people that only play Tracer, and a lot of people that only play Genji. Those seem to be the really, really popular ones. Usually I have 2 Tracer mains on my team, just about every time. And while saying that, it also means that I'm playing against a Tracer just about every game. And I'm not gonna lie, it's tough playing against some of these really good Tracer players, because a lot of these Tracers only play Tracer, and I can kind of stay up in the sky somewhat uncontested. Now I want to talk about the toxicity in GM. So I would think that there's still toxicity, but not much of it in GM. I would assume that the players are mature enough and care about the game enough to play at that level so that they're not just throwing games. I have learned that that is definitely not the case. I'd say that the toxicity in GM is just like maybe 5% better than it would be the rest of the ladder. But yeah, it's still definitely about 1 in every 3 or 4 games, there's somebody that is just completely quitting and screaming at their teammates. And I'm trying not to be biased about it because I played like 3 or 4 games last night, and they were all probably some of the most toxic games I've ever played. But I think that was a little bit more of an anomaly, so I'm not going to let that have an effect on what I think about this, because overall, it's been about 1 in every 3 or 4 games, not 3 or 4 in a row. But it was like that for me everywhere else on the ladder. From gold to GM, sometimes you just get unlucky some nights, and you get teammates that just really have it out for each other. So this is what I've noticed in my matches so far. I'm curious to hear from you guys what types of videos you would want to see talking about certain aspects of GM or Master. But I am curious to hear what you guys think. I was also thinking about doing an in-depth Hanzo guide soon, which I don't know if you guys would be pumped up for that, but I'm thinking about making it because I think it'd be fun to put together. So anyways, just let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys have a great rest of the night. Take care, everybody. See ya.